Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Gantra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet Shavtam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Sruhasatam Nashtapraisha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So last Sunday we covered Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 2. Hiraṇyakaśipu, the Daityaraj, the king of the demons. And where we also not just heard about Hiraṇyakaśipu, we also understood that Hiraṇyakashipu's appearance is considered on the same level as that of the appearance of Lord Shri Krishna, because it is all arranged by Yogamaya. Right? And in Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, Mahatmanastu mam pata devi prakritimashaya. So he was actually cursed in his previous myths again. Previously he was a doorkeeper, Jai, and Hiranyaksh was Vijay. And they were cursed by the Chatur Kumaras. And that's why they descended on in the material universe. And as son of Diti. That's why they are called Daityas. And just the elder sister of Diti is Aditi. And her sons are known as Adityas. So Daityas and Adityas are sometimes also referred as like demons and demigods. So because, Diti's sons, they're generally not, a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. While Aditi's sons, they are very much devotees. So that's the difference. So sometimes when we say Sur and Asura, Sur is demigods and Asuras are demons. So we make that distinction, and that's why. And Hiraṇyakashipu, he was the king of demons. And most of the members in that particular group were Daityas, sons of Ditis or their progeny. So today we'll be covering, and actually in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7th Canto Chapter 2, we covered how after having performed all the last rites for Hiranyaksh, his younger brother, Hiraṇyakashipu pacified his family members, his mother, his sister-in-law, and the nephews, and he gave reference from the Purāṇa of his time. So he was a great scholar that way. We have to understand in the right perspective, in the right context, and he was giving them the science of soul, the material nature, and the Supreme Lord. So it's amazing that the only aspect he didn't cover was the science of self-realization. What's our position? So that was the gap. So it also shows how demons sometimes think. And today we'll be covering Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 3. Hiraṇyakashipu's plan to become immortal. And we'll cover the very first verse. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Hiraṇyakaśipu Rājana Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Veditsata. Shri Narada Uvacha. Narad Muni said, Hiraṇyakaśipu, the demoniac king Hiraṇyakaśipu, Rajan, O King Yudhishthir, Ajayam, unconquerable by any enemy, Ajara, without old age or disease, Amaram, immortal, Atmanam, himself, Aprati Dvandvam, without any rival or opponent, Ekarajam, the one king of the universe, Veditsata, desired to become. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Narad Muni said to Maharaj Yudhishthir, the demoniac king Hiraṇyakashipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all the yogic perfections like Anima and Laghima, to be deathless and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahma Loka. Purport. Such are the goals of the austerities performed by demons. Hiraṇyakashipu wanted to receive a benediction from Lord Brahma, so that in the future he would be able to conquer Lord Brahma's abode. Similarly, another demon received a benediction from Lord Shiva, but later wanted to kill Lord Shiva through that same benediction. Thus, self-interested persons, by demoniac austerity, want to kill even their benedictors, whereas the Vaishnava wants to remain an ever-existing servant of the Lord and never to occupy the post of the Lord. Through Sayujya Mukti, which is generally demanded by Asuras, one merges into the existence of the Lord, but although one sometimes thus achieves the goal of the theory of monism, one falls down again to the struggle in material existence. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatadham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is a very important chapter because this is going to change the course of events, right, in the material universe. Hiraṇyakashipu, after Hiranyaksha's being killed by Lord Varahadev, he has some fears and he is determined to take care of those fears. And so we'll be covering that aspect. Right from this purport, actually, there are three important lessons coming up. So those three lessons I'll briefly narrate and then we'll revisit each one of them. So austerities performed by demons, that has been described. And then, what's their mindset when they perform demigod worships? So again, that's demigod worshippers' mindset is also discussed, how their mood in which they do these worships. And then, how the Vaishnavas, worship the Lord. What's the difference between the two type of devotees? Devotees of the demigods and devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, the Vaishnavas. And what is the, because of this difference, even though the demons sometimes, they get Sayujya Mukti, but there is still some tinge of material contamination that remains. And last but not the least, we'll be discussing how Hiraṇyakashipu, what was the boon that he gets finally from Lord Brahma and what that results in. And we know about what was the conclusion, yet at the same time we will look at that contrasts with the austerities performed by Prahlad Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So in this verse, it's described that austerities performed by demons. Now, when demons performed austerities, and Hiraṇyakaśipu, since he pleased Lord Brahma, he was performing Lord Brahma to please, Hiraṇyakaśipu was performing all the austerities to please Lord Brahma. He is also known as Hiranyaka. Lord Brahma is known as Hiranyagarbha, like Hiranya, the horse-faced, horse-headed form of the Lord, who killed Madhu and Ketab in the previous, incident. And that's also a very interesting story where another great personality came into focus. So let's quickly visit that scenario of Hiranya. And then since Lord Brahma, he comes from the lotus feet. He's born on the lotus feet. That comes from Padmanabha Vishnu, right? So Hiranya, Garbha. Garbha is the womb. So if you split it, it very nicely becomes Hiranya Garbha. And then Hiranyaka, a devotee of Lord Brahma, of Hiranyagarbha. So that's another name for Hiraṇyakaśipu. So in this particular case, what happened is once Lord was in Yoga Nidra, and from the earwax of the Lord Vishnu came up two demons, Madhu and Ketab, and they started disturbing Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma, he started asking for help, and then at that time, Lord appeared and killed Madhu Ketab. But there was a great battle that ensued between the Lord and these two demons, Madhu and Ketab. And Lord Brahma, seeing that fight, he started getting some drops of perspiration on his forehead. So from that, those perspiration, they converted and they came in the form of Jamvan. So you've heard of Jamvan in Ramayana as well as in Krishna Leela in 10th Canto. Right? Jamvati, she is the second wife of Lord Shri Krishna, and she was daughter of Jamvan. So this Jamvan, he appeared and then he said, okay, what should I do? Because he's requesting Lord Brahma that you are my creator, what should I do? So Lord Brahma, in the mood to engage him in some service, said, you watch this fight. So Jamvan, he was cheering, So normally we have cheerleaders when we go for sports nowadays. So he was one of the cheerleaders, he was cheering for the Lord. And then Lord, finished, he killed the two demons. He said, okay, very nice, next. Next fight, next battle. So Lord Vishnu at that time became very pleased with Jamvan. So he said, you will get an inner seat in all my appearances. So that's why later on, Jamvan also was able to participate when Trivikrama formed, the 3 steps when Lord took to cover the universe to, before giving the boon. And getting the boon from Bali Maharaj for the 3 steps. Now coming back, so that's Hiranyaka. So I'm bringing back the context. Is where the devotees, in one way or other, they always want to service the Lord. Right? Even as a cheerleader, he was servicing the Lord. But when we think of demigod worshippers, there is a difference in the mood in which that they are doing the worship. And Srila Prabhupada shared the story of worshipper of goddess Kali. This devotee of goddess Kali, he was always going and asking for some benediction. He wanted some of his purpose to be solved. So he's asking, oh goddess Kali, if you do this, I will offer you a sacrifice of a goat. And apparently whatever his motive was, that got solved. And, but he didn't offer the goat. But so when he was coming to the temple, Goddess Kali said, it's been quite some time and your purpose has been solved. So when are you going to offer that goat? And he says, oh, it's so difficult to get a goat, Maybe I'll offer you a pig. She says, okay, offer me a pig. Sacrifice a pig. And time passes. And she says, you haven't even sacrificed a pig. He's like, oh, it's so difficult to get even a pig. She's like, if not that, at least, you see a fly, And the demigod worshipper says, oh, you see so many flies flying around, why just take one? So that's the attitude. They always want to get things from the demigods. So they are basically saying, demigods have extra power, extra potency, and they can give us some of the material benefits, so why don't they just serve us? So that's some attitude. And again, I was, some time back, I was looking at one of the YouTube where another devotee is addressing, where Deva o Deva, Ganapati Deva, tumse badkar kaun. So when they approach the demigods, they said that you are the topmost, right? And then the next line says, aur tumhare bhakta janam hai, and among all your devotees, humse badkar kaun, who is greater than me? That's more like self-glorification of self. And then since they depend on a demigod, they are glorifying so that the demigod serves their purpose. Be their order supplier. Right? So that's the mood of a demigod worshipper. And Srila Prabhupada said, there was one incident where devotees mentioned that a person who was visiting the temple, he's actually a Lord Shiva's devotee. So Srila Prabhupada said, that's okay. But if he thinks that Lord Shiva is the supreme, then he will not derive that benefit. But if the devotee thinks that Lord Shiva is a great Vaishnava, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, and with that mood, he worships Lord Shiva, to seek one, self spiritual advancement, then it would definitely benefit that devotee. So our mood has to change. From thinking these demigods to be our order suppliers, instead of that we have to think, how can we, help them in serving Lord Shri Krishna. There is a reference given that similar to the benediction that Hiraṇyakaśipu was able to get from Lord Brahma, similarly Lord Shiva had also given a benediction to another demon, Bhasmasura. And the benediction this demon was able to get is, whoever's head he put his hand on, the head will burst into 1,000 pieces. And when Lord Shiva had appeared from the fire, he basically thought about it. He looks at Uma Devi, the goddess Parvati. He says, if I kill Lord Shiva, then I can have goddess Parvati. And with that thought, he approached Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, he ran, right? So that's, the demons, they cause trouble even for their own benedictors. They want to serve the benedictor's position. So that has been also highlighted. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, a demon thinks that I am all in all, and I have killed all my enemies. And I have become so rich, and I will become richer. I will be full of more potencies, and I will continue to grow. So that's the mindset. So we should save ourselves from that mindset. So coming to Hiraṇyakashipu's story, this is the mindset he had. He realized that, Varahadev, who had actually appeared through the nostril of Lord Brahma, he had come and killed his brother. So I don't want to be, killed like that. Further, his determination was stronger than the determination of any materialist. It was just wrongly placed because of the influence of Yogamaya. The curse was that he would be a demon, so his mentality was demoniac. With that mindset, he had said that I will perform such severe austerity that nobody, could have performed. And it's not that if I don't get result in this birth, I will stop. I will continue to take birth after birth till I get this benediction. See how determined he was. Not just this birth, but birth after birth. That reminds me of another incident, birth after birth, is there was this rich man. And when he used to go to satsangs, he used to say, every time he goes to satsang and afterwards he is introduced as one of the richest men in the town, the sages or the devotees who are giving that satsang, they are asking him to give something in service of the Lord. So they are always asking. From his mindset, they are always asking, pleasure for me. So first they tell me to renounce everything. And then they want to take away all I have. These are his words. So one of his friends, he said to him, there is a great sage in the town. Let's go and see his lecture. Listen to this satsang he is giving. And he says, no, he'll do the same thing. First he will tell me in his lecture to renounce everything to be detached from everything in this material world, and then afterwards he will say, give me all that you have. Right? So I don't want to go. So the friend said, no, just come with me. Just, And he goes there for this satsang, and the focus is devotion service, to offer everything in the service of Lord Shri Krishna, and that's Yukta Vairagya, right? The proper renunciation is to engage everything, mind, body, resources, your words, everything in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. And at the end of the satsang, he's introduced to the sage. And the sage looks at him quite deeply, and then he says, oh, I have to ask you for a favor. And he's thinking, what? There we go again. The sage is going to ask me for my Lakshmi. That's what he's thinking. And the sage picks up a needle and he says, actually, I use this needle to sew my clothes, right? The ones that are torn. And I always seem to misplace it. And I have a hard time finding it. So could you please take care of me, this needle for me, and give it to me in my next birth? And at that time, something strikes him. He's like, what am I talking about, I can't even take this needle to my next birth. What am I thinking of taking all the treasures? So what's the purpose of the treasure? It's coming from the Lord and should be used in the service of the Lord. So he gets that realization. And then from that point onward, he profusely contributes, his wealth, his mind, his body, everything in the service of the Lord. So that's the lesson. Sometimes we get similar lessons. It reminds me, sometimes demons, they are with that mindset. So, with the mindset of self-gratification, while the devotees are coming with the mindset of self-realization, to be established in their constitutional position as devotee of the Lord. Jivera sarup hoy krishnena nityadas. Living entity's constitutional position is to be an eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So that's the lesson we learn. So here Hiraṇyakaśipu, having made such a strong determination and thinking to become Ekam Raja. So he wants to become one king of the universe. With that mindset, he's going to get the boon of immortality from Lord Brahma. He enters Mandara hill, and there he is standing on his toes with his hands raised upward and his head looking at the sky, his eyes were looking at the sky. And so this is a very difficult position, and he is performing austerity in this manner. It so happens, when he performs such level of austerity, a lot of fire emanates from the body, the heat. So from his head, a lot of fire was emanating and was heating the whole universe. It was causing havoc everywhere. So prior to coming to Mandara hill, he had already sent all the Daityas and demons to cause havoc on earth. To destroy the sages, hermitages, their ashrams, and also to defeat and rule out, abolish all the kingdoms and the kings who were nicely taking care of Vedic culture. And it was very materialistic society. Reminds me when Srila Prabhupada said that this society that we are living in is in Kali age. It's very materialistic because people have to travel long distance for their work. They have to over-endeavor. While in Vedic society, a man can just have one cow and a small piece of land and can be happy. And they are destroying, because in the name of advancement, they are destroying the Vedic culture. Right? Means people are not giving proper respect to the Vedic culture. The Brahmanas are not getting the proper respect as well. So the guidance in the past used to be, the king used to take guidance from Brahmanas, who were their spiritual masters and their gurus. But today that is not happening. They're taking guidance from scientists who are misguided. And because of the limited senses, they keep coming up with solutions which are not in the benefit of the society. It reminds us of so many instances. If we start those instances, the class will just take away too much time. Like the GMO scenario, right? They're trying to genetically modify the crops so that the crop can be produced, giving hormone injections to the cows so that they produce more milk in the name of advancement, but actually it's reducing the life of the recipients. So it's causing havoc and needs a proper balance. So Hiranyakashipu was doing a similar thing in his manner. And in this age, however, there is this great boon, right? Kalera dosha nidhe rajan asti he ko mahan guna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrijit. Kalera dosha nidhe rajan. This Kali age is an ocean of faults. Asti he eko mahan guna. However, there is one great quality. Mahan guna. Kirtanad eva krishnasya. Just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, mukta sangraha, we can become detached from this material world, param vrajit, and attain the supreme abode. So all we have to do is take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So it's very interesting, and that this age we have the boon of Harinam. And if you look at it, means holy name, chanting of the holy name is also said to be the greatest sacrifice. In Bhagavad Gita says, Lord says, that of all the sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy name. So no matter which age, this has been always there. And by chanting of the holy name, we are directly associating with the Lord because He is dancing on our tongue. The name Krishna and Lord Krishna, they are non-different. All the potencies of the Lord are existing in the holy name. So that's there. So in this way, the Hiranyakashipu, he is in Mandara Hill, in the Mandara Mountains. He is in the valley of Mandara Mountain. He is performing austerities, severe austerities. And the fire that's emanating from his head is agitating. The heat was reaching all the planets, upper and lower planets. So all the demigods, even their abodes, were feeling the heat and they were getting disturbed. So they all left their abodes and went to Lord Brahma, along with Lord Indra. Shishi Gauratai ki jai. Shishi Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shishi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, Hiranyakashipu, he's performing these austerities. All the planets, upper planetary systems as well as lower in the material universe, they're feeling this heat. The demigods, they go to Lord Brahma's abode, Brahma Loka, and say, please, somehow stop Hiranyakashipu from performing this austerity. Yet at the same time, they wanted to inform Lord Brahma about the intention he had. They want to tell him that he actually wants to take your position. Indra, if he had said that he wants to take my position, Lord Brahma may not be so willing to stop him, right? But if he tells that he's going to take your position, that's a concern. That's something Lord Brahma would immediately act on. So Lord Brahma thinks over this and then he comes to where Hiranyakashipu was performing the austerities. Now he came with many sages and Prajapatis. And two names have been prominently identified in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and Shukdev Goswami is explaining how Narad Muni is narrating the incident to Yudhishthira Maharaj. In this narration, two names are identified. One is Daksha Prajapati, and the second name is Bhrigu. He is also one of the great sages. So it so happened, why is he taking? It's very important to know, like Lord Brahma is going and he's taking these great sages, and especially these two names have been identified. So we already covered. Hiranyakashipu is Daityaraj, right? His mother is Diti, and Diti's father is Daksha. So there is a direct relationship. His grandpa is coming. So who can, sometimes when parents, they love us, but grandparents, they love us more So when our grandparents say, no, no, you should do this, we listen to them more sometimes than to our parents. Because we know they love us more and we love them more as well. So that's an influence on Hiranyakashipu that Lord Brahma can take, and Daksha happens to be a Prajapati. He's always curious about having good progeny and making sure the progeny is devotee and in the right path. So, of course, that's there. Now why Bhrigu Muni? Why is his name given? So Hiranyakashipu's spiritual master is Shukracharya. Shukra means born of semen. So who is Shukracharya's father? Bhrigu Muni. So he is actually taking father of his spiritual master. And Bhrigu Muni also is the spiritual master of Shukracharya. So both ways, he's bringing influence, with him. So when you go to someone and you want to influence them, you want to have the right candidate in your group so that you can influence them well in a positive manner. And when Lord Brahma reaches the valley of Mandara mountain, he doesn't see anyone there. He sees blazing fire. But then they have some hard time finding where Hiranyakashipu is. Because what has happened over these years, and how many years, that's also amazing. For 100 heavenly years. Now one day of one heavenly day is 6 months of earthly year. 6 months. So 100 heavenly years equals to 18,000 earthly years. So many years Hiranyakashipu was performing. Now the time he was performing was Satyuga, right? And Kriteta Dhayate Vishwam. In Satyuga, one would get perfection by meditating on Lord Vishnu. But Hiranyakashipu is not meditating on Lord Vishnu, he is meditating on Lord Brahma for his personal motive. So his body had actually been eaten up by the worms and insects, and over a period of time it had just melted away. So his skin, his muscles, his whole system, fat and all his intestine, everything had just vanished. And only his skeleton was there. And all his pranavayu, the life years, were contained within the bones as he was meditating with his arms held up and looking up in the sky. So, in this manner he is meditating on Lord Brahma to please Lord Brahma. And from middle of his body and so many places, there were bambi, the anthills were there, and the bamboos and other trees, they were coming out of his body and nearby area. So, it was a very amazing scene. And Lord Brahma and all these great personalities who came to see Hiranyakashipu, they were amazed to see the austerities he was performing. So that's a determination. Sometimes we think as a devotee, give us that determination, not the mood, but if we had that determination, which is actually in our capacity, we can serve better. So we should build such determination, but not the mood. We should continue to have the mood to serve the Lord. So in this manner, Hiranyakashipu is performing, and Lord Brahma, from his kamandalu, he takes some water and throws on Hiranyakashipu. And his body, he gets brand new body, which is said to have golden luster. And so powerful that it can even bear the effect of thunderbolt attack. So he could take thunderbolts and nothing would happen to him. Such a strong body. And Hiranyakashipu, immediately bows down, downwards to Lord Brahma, and he starts glorifying Lord Brahma. And like we heard, sometimes when somebody is asking, there are so many instances we have heard, when you want a favor from someone who is a small officer, you actually address him to be the topmost officer in that department, you get immediately reciprocation from the favorable response from that person. So Hiranyakashipu is addressing Lord Brahma as the Supreme Person, while we know the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Shri Krishna. So he's saying, you're the creator of all, right? You're the master of this creation, and then you're the Supreme Being. So he's glorifying. So again, we know about Sarga and Visarga. There is primary creation and secondary creation. In primary creation, Lord Vishnu is again as Mahavishnu. He is the creation, maintenance, annihilation, it takes care of all the businesses. But in Visarga, which is secondary creation, in an individual material universe among unlimited material universes, every material universe has Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Where Lord Brahma is the creator, Lord Vishnu is the maintainer, and Lord Shiva, Mahesh, is the annihilator. So he's the destroyer, he destroys it. At the end of the each Lord Brahma's day as well as at the end. So it just so happened that Hiranyakashipu is addressing Lord Brahma to be the Supreme Being. And of course, what is he asking? What is he going to ask for as a boon? He's going to ask for immortality. And Lord Brahma says, even I don't have immortality, how can I offer it to you? Even I'm going to die after my 100 years. 100 years of Brahmaloka is many more than. So Hiranyakashipu realizing he's not going to get, and of course he sees the presence of all the great sages, including Bhrigu Muni and Daksha Prajapati, so he's asking for a great boon. And now, before we go to that boon, it's very interesting. The sprinkling of water from the Kamandalur also reminds of another incident where, again, I'm giving from the literature of Lord Chaitanya's, where his glories are defined and his pastimes are defined. And there is a story of Sadbuddhi Raya. He was a landlord in Jamidar. He was a landlord in Bengal. And apparently he had a servant, a male servant, who was a boy as his servant. And that boy had somehow, through different means, had attained the position of Nawab Hussain Shah, the Nawab of Bengal, afterwards. And one day, his wife, Nawab's wife, she notices a mark on his back. So she asks, how did you get this mark on your back? And he says, oh, I used to be a servant, a menial servant of Sadbuddhi Rai. And sometimes I would steal things, right? So when you steal, means he used to love, Sadbuddhi Rai used to love this boy just like his own son. But when he used to steal things, Sadbuddhi Rai used to chastise him and beat him with cane. So one of the cane beating had a mark that stayed. So hearing this, the wife of Nawab Hussain, she became agitated. She said, you should immediately kill him. And Nawab Hussain said, no, he took care of me when I was a boy. He really loved me like a father. Today's Father's Day, by the way. So he's saying that he loved me like a father, so I couldn't do that. So she still said, then you convert him into a Mohammedan. And so Nawab Hussain Shah, he goes to Sadbuddhi Rai, and from his water pot, he sprinkles water on Sadbuddhi Rai and declares that he has become a Mohammedan. See, this is material nature, this is material world, where if some way or other, if you get a higher position, you can try to change the system and do whatever your mind says, speculative mind says. So that's the danger of this material world. So in this case, it just happens to remind me that when Lord Brahma sprinkles, Hiranyakashipu gets a material body stronger to take the jewels. He doesn't get a spiritual body yet, right? So it just so happens that after having received this, but not receiving the boon of immortality, Hiranyakashipu asked for an amazing boon, right? It's been, one of the toughest boon to get. So he says that, first of all, I may not be killed by anyone created by you. So anyone created by Lord Brahma, coming from Lord Brahma cannot kill Hiranyakashipu. Then second he is saying, I may not be killed, means I may not die in day or night. Inside the residence or outside the residence. In the sky or on earth or on land. And since you are, undefeated in battlefield, I may also not have any opponent in the battlefield. I should be always victorious in the battlefield. I may not be killed by any human, any demigod, any animal. I may not be killed by astra or shastra. So there are two types of weapons. Astras are like sword. You hold it in your hand and you fight. Shastra is the ones you throw. like arrows, bow and arrows. So arrows is what you shoot at the other person. Or tridents can be acted, they can be both. So I may not be killed by those. I may not be killed by anything that's living or dead. So he's asking for boons, not to even die from any disease, not through time, he should die. So again, he's asking for all these boons. Then there is still a gap remaining. Because what if he's killed by Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, who are beyond Lord Brahma? So he said, okay, I should not be killed even by a personality beyond you. He's covering Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu as well. So very tough boon to get. And Lord Brahma, thinking that he's not asking for immortality, he should grant this tough boon. And he grants this boon. And this is where this chapter ends. Of course, we know after getting this boon, Hiraṇyakaśipu is going to cause havoc. Because he has actually covered all the areas. Yet at the same time, Lord is said to be supreme, right? He's number one in everything. So when it comes to mercy, who's number one? Lord Krishna. When it comes to cheating, who's number one? Lord Krishna. So he has solution for everything. So he will find his way. We know that. And if you know Hiraṇyakashipu's end, then you know how it's all been met. So those are some of the lessons that we get. That even with such austerities, we know that Hiraṇyakashipu's all his attempts finally fail, and he is actually annihilated. But in this chapter, what is going to happen is going to change the course of action. And this is what happens in materialistic world. Reminds me of an incident when I was traveling in a metro rail, and there was a Indian bodied, just like me, scientist. He was traveling with me, and we were having nice conversation about today's world, and he works for NASA. So I was asking him, you spend so much time to spend in finding if there is life on other planets. And he was giving me a lot of theories about, how they're doing different things, and he was in charge of some of the telescopic, like in Orlando and other locations, they have big telescopes and so forth. He has been there in helping the setup and all. And I'm like, what is the purpose of all this that you're doing? And it just came out that all his supervisors and their supervisors had been discussing how to find life on other planets so that we can learn from that life and become better. So the end goal is to become better than everyone else out there. If you look at this lesson, that's exactly what Hiraṇyakashipu was looking for. To become better even than Lord Brahma. And then one of the questions I raised to him, which was surprising that both of us realized, that we already have so many new species found on planet Earth, and how loving are we towards them, right? The moment you see a weed, the first thought is, how do I take it out? So again, first create an environment that they have proper place. Because what is weed to one? There was a story of a sage. A lady approaches the sage saying that there's so much weed, and every time I clean it, I cannot clean them. The sage says, well, just love to live with them. Love to live with those weed flowers as well. So again, we should try to understand that Lord has provided arrangement for everyone and not create havoc on other living entities, and be able to learn to live with other living entities. There is another story that comes to mind. A man, he dies and goes to the pearly gates. So again, it's a story coming from Christianity. And he goes to the pearly gates. What does he see? When he enters, he's seeing palatial buildings, great gardens. People are dressed very nicely like angels. However, when they go to eat food, they get all chained up so that they can pick up the food, but the food cannot reach their mouth, and all of them are miserable. He looks at this scenario and says, oh, this is hell. This is not heaven. He goes further to another place, which is again similar. The buildings are palatial, they have big parks, People are nicely dressed and they go to lunch, to take prasadam, and they're very happy. Their hands are still chained, but they're feeding each other. Right? They're happy because they have understood that the happiness lies in that relationship. And imagine how much happiness you can derive, the true happiness, in the true relationship that we have with Lord Krishna, right? So that's the lesson we should take to our heart, that we should love to build that relationship. And the purpose of ISKCON, in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada identified is that there are 6 purposes, right? The purposes are Dadati Pratigrahanati, Guhyam Akhyati Prichati, Bhungate Bhojate Chava, Sadvita Priti Lakshanam. So Priti Lakshan, to have that loving exchanges, there are 6 symptoms. Dadati Pratigrahanati, giving of gifts and accepting gifts. Guhyam Akhyati Prichati, to ask, to make inquiry on secret subjects, Lord's pastimes. And also to share those pastimes. And Bhunjate Bhojate Chava, to offer prasadam, to accept prasadam. These are the 6 loving exchanges that increases relationship among devotees. And when devotees, they work together, they can serve the Lord better. United we stand, divided we fall. And the process is very simple. It starts with simple chanting. So that's the conclusion we derive. That how do we ask for service to Lord Krishna? By chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Gantraj Śrīmad. Oh, go ahead, Prabhu.
Thank you for the next class. The mentality that you're describing.
Yes.
Reminiscent of one of the offenses that were, a few of the offenses were recommended not to make force of it.
Yes.
So maybe you can discuss a bit about how to avoid that tendency when we approach the chanting, because we can often approach it in that fruitive mentality that
Oh, very nice question. So how do we avoid that mentality of Hiraṇyakaśipu when we are chanting the holy name? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually gave us Shishashtika, the 8 verses. And those verses, they enlighten us to the mood. And especially the 3rd verse, Tranadabi Shunichena Tarudapi Saishuna Amanena Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. So again, all 8 verses are glorifying the holy name and how we should take to the holy name. But this 3rd verse actually identifies the mood in essence. Tranadapi Shunichena, and Tarurapi Saishuna. So be more humbler than the grass. When we walk on the grass feels very nice when you walk on. But it doesn't oppose us. It's getting crushed under our feet. But doesn't oppose us. It doesn't start causing splinters in our feet. So that's the humility state. Reminds me of a story from that humility. Once Srila Prabhupada, he was giving his class, and afterwards a man came to him and he said, Krishna was immoral. So Srila Prabhupada sometimes used to be very strong, right? So he said in this particular incident that you are immoral. What are you doing with one of Krishna's gopis? And the man was suddenly taken aback. But then in his anger, he started saying bad things to Srila Prabhupada. And the devotees, they immediately created like a wall around Srila Prabhupada and drove this man away. And now devotees in front of Srila Prabhupada discussing what will happen to this man in his next birth. He has offended a Bhāgavata. So this man will be born without arms, without legs, somewhere in Calcutta. He would be suffering, worm in the stool. They were giving so many other, predictions as how this man would suffer. And then they turned at Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, or we may forgive him for his offenses. And suddenly everyone took aback, like Srila Prabhupada by his own example as Acharya. Acharya means the one who shows by his own behavior, who teaches by his own behavior. They learn that yes, we have to be more tolerant. Because it's in ignorance that the materialists say things. Yes, we should not associate with them. We should, especially avoid the envious materialists. Yet at the same time, we should give that mercy, pass on the mercy that we have received to the innocent. So that we have to make distinction between envious and innocent, and then pass it on to innocent. So humility is a great quality. And earlier we also covered when Bhrigu Muni wanted to find who's the topmost of the three deities, the three devas, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. Again, his criteria was who's more tolerant. So whoever is more tolerant is higher. We don't want to become higher. We just want to learn to take to the chanting with pure heart so that and purify ourselves, because it's Cheto Darpana Marjanam, right? It removes that dust established on the mirror of our heart and reduces the fire of this material existence. So that's tolerance, or humility, sorry. Humility is one aspect. And then tolerance, tarur api saishana. So tarur, which is tree. Tree has another name called vraksha. The meaning of vraksha is one that is going to be cut down. So the tree provides shades. We take fruits from the trees, and at the end, means we even to survive and make houses, we even cut down the trees. But do they stop giving shade to us? No. They continue to give shade. They continue to provide, fruits. They continue to provide us nice wood that can be used to build houses, even firewood and so forth. So we can derive so much benefits from trees, but tree is so tolerant that they don't stop giving us. So we need to be more tolerant than a tree. Not just tolerant as the tree, but more tolerant than the tree. So sometimes, yes, devotees, they complain that the materialists take advantage of them. But in the long run, if we are serving Krishna, then we will learn from Krishna how to save ourselves from such materialist mindset and engage ourselves in Krishna's service, right? Does that answer your question? Hare Krishna. Canto Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nanda Kori Vaishnavande ki jai. Go Premanande, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.